Senator Wilson. Senator John McGahon.
Thank you, Ciarán. I'd like to provide some context, historical context, as to Ireland's neutrality. And I provide that historical context by quoting from the Viscount Cranbourne, who is the British Secretary of State for Dominion Affairs, who wrote to the British War Cabinet on the 21st of February 1945, and he outlined 13 examples of how the Irish Republic were assisting with the Allied war effort. And some of those 13 examples were that they've arranged for the immediate transmission of all reports of submarine activity received from their coastal watching service. They've arranged for the broadening of reports by the Air Observation Corps of aircraft sighted over or approaching Southern Irish territory. They've arranged for the extinction of trade and business lighting in coastal towns where such lighting was alleged to afford a useful landmark for German aircraft. They've continued to supply us with meteorological reports. They've agreed to the use of our ships and aircraft of 2 wireless direction finding stations at Malin Head. They've supplied particulars of German crash aircraft, personnel crashed, washed ashore or arrested on land. They've arranged for staff talks on the question of cooperation against a possible German invasion of the south of Ireland. They continue to intern all German fighting personnel reaching Southern Ireland. On the other hand, all Allied service personnel are allowed to depart freely, and full assistance is given in recovering all Allied damaged Irish aircraft. Recently, in connection with the establishment of prisoner of war camps in Northern Ireland, they've agreed to return or at least intern any German prisoners who may escape from Northern Ireland across the border to the south. They've offered no objection to the departure of Southern Ireland persons wishing to serve in the United Kingdom forces. They continue to exchange all information with our security authorities regarding all German people living in the south of Ireland. And they have within the last few days agreed to the establishing of a radar station in Southern Ireland for the use of the latest form of submarine activity. So that's what we were doing in World War II when it comes to neutrality. Fast forward from in the 1960s, it was American aircraft that were flying Irish troops to the Congo. It was German aircraft that were flying Irish troops to Mali. It was an agreement that existed, although not officially confirmed, but it did exist between the RAF and the Irish government that after 9/11, if any rogue airplanes were to enter Irish airspace, they would be shot down by the RAF. Shannon has used a base for Irish, the American Air Force have used Shannon as a base for the last 20 years. Are they the actions of a neutral country? Are they the actions of a neutral country? I don't believe they are, and that's fact. You know, that's not an opinion of John McGahon. So anyone who thinks Ireland is a neutral country, I think is deluding themselves. It's a particular brand of neutrality. That has been allowed to develop over the last 50 or 60 years because of complete, total inaction of policy. And Cathal Berry TD outlined the 3 types of security forces that exist on the European continent at the minute, and it can be put into 3 categories. The first category is the actual neutral countries, like Finland, Austria and Sweden, who can actually protect themselves because they put proper funding into their military. The second group is Iceland, who are a traditionally pacifist country, but they actually joined NATO in 1949, and if they ever get into trouble, will have the support of larger nations. And the third group then is the most common, and that's where everyone maintains a particular level of sovereign military capability, but they're also involved in a joint defence arrangement, whether that's NATO or something else. Ireland is totally unique because we're the only European country, not the EU, the only European continental country that doesn't fall into any of those 3 sections. And that's because over the last 50, 60, 70 years, we've allowed this concept of neutrality, which was never really a quasi-political position, to just develop and develop. So we've never actually been neutral because of all of the cooperation that we've done. So I think let's become a properly neutral country. Let's have a properly funded military capability, and then we can be a proper neutral country like the first section that I talked about, which is Finland, Austria and Sweden. But what does our neutrality mean? I think it means so many different things to so many different people because it has been such a loosely defined term in recent years. But to me, it means that we stay out of conflict, we stand up for international law, there is no automatic obligation for us to join any sort of a conflict, the same way there's no automatic obligation for any other country to come to our aid. That's really what neutrality means to me. But at the same time, it means we cooperate extensively with our neighbours, with our friends, with our allies, with our partners, that we stand up for international law on a case-by-case basis, and that we're not part of any common defence arrangements. That's what I believe it is, that we should stay as what a neutral country is, but we operate on a case-by-case basis, and we continue a really in-depth cooperation with other European defence forces, other European militaries, to make sure that our Irish Army is getting the absolute best training. And let's have an actual real debate about it. And this is why I want to thank No, but this is why I want to thank the Senate for bringing this forward, because this is the whole issue about it. Irish neutrality and what the concept of it isn't a sacred cow. It isn't sacrosanct. It's something that should be up for debate in a modern Irish society. We've had some very big issues that we have discussed and debated over the last 10 years and a decade. And what I'm actually looking for is to have the type of neutrality that we have had in this country for the last 50 or 60 years, but at least be honest about it. And that honesty is that we have a pious view of neutrality. Oh, sorry, we're neutral, we don't get involved. But at the same time, we have all of this collaboration and all of this cooperation with other countries, but it's kind of under the kosher about it. So I think we need to really be honest about it. I think we need to say, yes, we are a neutral country, and that means that we have a really proper funded military, so we're not relying on the cooperation of other countries to come to our aid. It also means that we keep it as business as usual, we maintain the status quo, and I really, really do believe this. We are not a neutral country by the facts that I've given over the last 80 years for examples of where we have engaged with other countries. I think we should absolutely keep and continue to do what we're doing. But let's be honest about it and say what we are. Let's properly fund our military, and let's be like a proper neutral country, like Finland, like Sweden, that's not relying on other countries, that aren't part of defence agreements. And I think that's the way forward for Irish neutrality in the modern era.